This is Gotham TV Podcast, episode 57, looking at Gotham, season 2, episode 6, By Fire.
Hey, this is Drew Powell. I play Butch Gilzine on Gotham, and you are listening to Gotham TV Podcast.
Welcome back, Gothamites, to this episode of Gotham TV Podcast, episode 57, where Gotham is set alight by Firefly. Such a huge episode, so much going on in this episode 6 of season 2 of Gotham. I am one of your excited hosts, John.
I'm your other host, Derek. I'm also pretty excited too. Fun week this week.
This had a lot crammed into it. Directed by one of our favorite directors from season 1, TJ Scott. He brings that aesthetic to this episode again, and there is an awful lot going on in this episode, including a fantastic ending with so many possibilities Absolutely. For Gotham in general and for the rest of this season. Given that it's Rise of the Villains, I wonder how many will be poking their head above the ground from Indian Hill in a zombie-esque fashion. I really can't wait to see how this division of Wayne Enterprises plays out, to be honest. And certainly jam-packed, absolutely jam-packed. Your thoughts, Derek?
Yeah, so much going on. And again, so much shocking stuff happening at the end of this episode that I was kind of expecting that it was going to end at a certain point, which I'm sure we'll talk about. And then it kept going with a couple of more little bits added on that were make it more exciting for the rest of the season. So I'm really excited to talk about this one. But before we get into that, a little bit of an announcement to begin with. We're off to a comic convention in the UK coming up in June. What's the convention, John?
The Ultimates by Star Fury Conventions. It's on in Blackpool, so we will be rocking Blackpool for a weekend.
Yeah.
In June.
That's right, June 12th to June 14th.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be cram-packed with our favourite Gotham actors and villains from this season. We have the Penguin.
Yeah, Robin Lord Taylor. We also have Butch Gilzine, the gentleman who provides us with our intro every week. Drew Powell is going to be at Blackpool, so hopefully we'll get to meet him face to face.
Maybe we can buy him that Guinness that we promised.
That's right. Hopefully we'll be allowed close enough to give him a Guinness. And finally, we also have the wonderful, and this episode was hugely heavy with her. I'm really looking forward to seeing her. Cameron Beacondova, who plays Selena Kyle on Gotham, will also be appearing at the convention. So yeah, that's going to be really good fun. That's the first time we'll be meeting Cameron Beacondova.
Absolutely. So it'll be really good fun. There's also, if anyone listens to our Defenders TV podcast, there will also be Haley Atwell, who's been announced there from Agent Carter. There's also Brett Dalton from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
So there will also be Marvel TV shows present at Blackpool. And it'll be interesting to see how they take up Blackpool, a beach resort on the Irish Sea in Lancashire, where I'm from.
That's right.
Not Blackpool, but from Lancashire. And so it'll be interesting.
Absolutely. A freezing cold beach resort, even in June.
Exactly. I believe it is like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, it'll be my first time. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. And good surroundings, I think, for the Gotham villains, to be honest.
Absolutely.
If you want to get tickets for the Ultimates event in Blackpool in June, you can get them from starfury.co.uk. It's just the regular tickets and the child tickets available left now. I think the regular tickets are £95 for the 3-day weekend, which is a pretty good price to get to meet all those wonderful stars of Gotham. And hopefully you might even bump into two guys who do a podcast in Ireland. We will be there for the full weekend, and hopefully you'll catch us by our Gotham TV podcast t-shirts. But we will be hopefully there and hopefully get to meet you. Pop on, get those tickets, and hopefully we'll catch you. And let us know if you're going to be there as well. Just email us at feedback@GothamTVPodcast, or come and join our Facebook group as usual. You can go find us on Facebook. We have a group and a page. Just search for Gotham TV Podcast, where we cover the show, obviously, at the UK pace. No spoilers in there for the American broadcast.
Absolutely. And remember, you can subscribe and listen to us at gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes or any other good podcast catcher. Just search Gotham TV Podcast and we shall pop up and you can subscribe or listen to us there. And speaking of which, we just want to give a shout out to Claire Payne, who left us a Twitter message to say, I've just listened to the latest episode. Excellent. Refreshing. Gutted I didn't listen from the beginning when Gotham started. So thank you so much for that, Claire. I think that is the power of leaving a review on one of these podcast sites, whether it's Android or iTunes. More reviews allow greater exposure to other audience members who maybe haven't spotted us yet. So please share the message of Gotham TV Podcasts. Keep on listening, keep on subscribing, and keep on reviewing. Absolutely. It all helps for other people to learn about us and to listen on in. Yeah. So thank you so much, Claire, for those nice words. That's really appreciated.
Yeah, it's always great to have new listeners joining us, and we're doing everything we can to provide a good and enjoyable podcast for you about Gotham, just to kind of get you over that hump in between the week, those 7 horrible days where we don't have Gotham on air.
And if you're one of those new listeners who has come to us from this second season of Gotham airing on Channel 5, remember we go through our 5 top points. We might pick out a Dark Knight, we might pick out a Batman 66, or we might pick out a Tim Burton Batman during this episode, but we come with our 5 points, good, bad, or indifferent, on each episode of Gotham. And I think with that, we can move on to our discussion of Gotham Episode 6, By Fire.
Yes, certainly. This episode was full of fire. Really well directed, actually, by TJ Scott, as you mentioned, John. And this episode was written by Rebecca Perry Cutter, who's the executive story editor on the show. We spoke to the Gotham Addicts about her when they were on board. Candace from the Gotham Addicts, who got to visit the set, was speaking to Rebecca Perry Cutter. I believe this was one of the episodes that she saw getting made. And it's effectively what Rebecca's job on the show is to make sure that everything matches up with previous episodes and matches up with what's going to happen in the future of the show. But this episode By Fire was written by her, so the really good guiding hand on the show, guiding the episode. So John, do you want to tell us what Rebecca gave us in this episode?
Sure. The GCPD hunt down the Firebook after the death of one of their officers. But as Jim tracks the murderer down, a familiar face shows up, Selina Kyle, who knows the traumatized Bridget Pike, aka Firefly. Meanwhile, Butch is exposed by the Galavants to still be working for Cobblepot, and they use this to their advantage, as Penguin believes he is rallying his troops for a seemingly apparent rescue of his mother Gertrude. However, as Jim corners the Firefly killer with the rest of Alpha Squad from the GCPD, things become increasingly complicated as he fails to keep a promise he gave to Selina. And he also learns of Penguin's involvement in the arson attacks on Wayne Enterprises. More intrigue takes place as 2 separate dinners across Gotham, a seemingly family affair at one sends Bruce Wayne further into the tangled web of the Galavants, whilst the other, a traumatic episode between lovers, will reverberate across Gotham for the foreseeable future, just as a new dark secret is revealed underneath this dark city.
Absolutely. My gosh, so much going on in this episode.
So much.
Yeah, really, really good. As John mentioned, we do talk about these episodes with our 5-point structure. So 5 points that we've each taken, some crossover, some can be good, some can be bad. John, what do you want to give us for your first point?
Well, we're close to Valentine's Day here. That sad or happy or tragic day has just passed for a lot of people. And I think we have Valentine's Day in a Gotham nutshell here. I think we have coffee, dinner, bedtime, and murder. And we have the dinner at Ed Nigma's apartment between him and Christine Kringle. It starts off with a lovely heart shape in the froth of her cappuccino. It ends up with the most personal of killings, the strangulation of Christine Kringle at the doorway as she's trying to escape from Ed's apartment after he's revealed to her that he killed Tom Doherty to protect her. It all seemingly was going so well.
Yeah.
Christine Kringle beds him, essentially.
Yeah.
He's
finally gets him.
Yeah. He is on cloud 9, and then we really hear his screams go throughout Gotham as he's lying with Christine Kringle on the floor as she's dead in his arms. I love that. As he's saying he killed Tom to protect her and that he's loved her since the first time he met her, you kind of see the life leave Christine Kringle's eyes as he's strangling her, and he's muffling her mouth as well. I just thought that was really dramatic and really poignant for the character of Ed Nygma. Really well played, well acted between these two actors. Really, really good. And I mean, yes, we've seen that the Riddler has been born, but I think this is maybe where he really comes out of the shadows, comes out of the box. Like, it may even be, dare I say, that Christine Kringle kept the balance between Ed Nygma and the Riddler, and maybe this now has been completely blown apart by the death of her.
Yeah,
so it'd be interesting to see also what the Riddler thinks of what Ed Nygma has just done, or was it the Riddler that strangled her? Which one of the Nygmas was responsible for this strangulation?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Chelsea Spack, I have to say, was fantastic in the scene. Really, really enjoyed her character all the way through the series, actually. Yeah, since we first saw her last season, we kind of knew these two were going to hook up. They seemed to be really lovey-dovey in the last episode. And this episode, you know, to kind of go to that level of violence that quickly between the two of them. There's a couple of lines from Christine where she essentially says to him, "Let go of me, you freak." And that's effectively the twist for Ed. He suddenly turns on her and says, "Don't you call me that." And then he's trying to make her shut up and make her stop talking to him. But it does feel like it's Ed Nygma. It doesn't feel like it's Evil Ed, to give him the name that Corey Michael Smith has given him. It doesn't seem like it's Evil Ed that kills her. It seems like it is our Ed Nygma that we've seen, the polite, innocent, quiet guy, that actually has taken this step and killed her himself.
And the thing is as well, you know, in the interview we had with Corey Michael Smith at New York Comic Con back in October of last year, you know, how he was saying, well, sometimes you need that other side of you to get the girl. You know, it's taken him long enough, and Evil Ed has managed to get the girl, Christine Kringle, for Ed Nygma. And here now we see just the tragedy of this dual personality, that on the one hand it's got the girl, and basically on the other hand it's the same thing that's taken her away from him now for forever. Really tragic. I mean, I did just love the whole through line of this story in this episode. You know, it started off so well with the heart-shaped cappuccino froth, and it was just like, you know, cute, you know, gets her to dinner with the little riddle of, you know, what's three-legged cow, lean beef, you know, or dinner at mine, you know, charm in his way, looking absolutely top-notch for, you know, getting the girl, really cementing now this loving relationship, and maybe it didn't finish like a Valentine should do.
Absolutely.
Except in the horror movies, of course, which Gotham is part horror. So this was really, really cool through arc for this episode. And I think it's really nice that it ties in with Valentine's Day over here as well. Yeah.
So it's such a pity for Christine Kringle as well, but she did kind of call it on herself in a way. She does ask that she wants someone with a much darker edge. I think she got a much darker edge than she was hoping for, though. She's kind of gone out with a cop that beats her now, and now a guy that killed her. That's a pretty awful way to go if you're living in Gotham and a single lady. I wouldn't go on any dating websites in Gotham.
How is Ed going to get rid of the body? Is he going to do the same thing that he did with Tom? Keep a memento, and then gradually get rid of him through the coroner's office in the GCPD, probably. Or is he going to maybe preserve her in formaldehyde because she is his first love?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
House of Wax style kind of thing.
Oh no, that would be really, really horrible to watch. But really looking forward to seeing what happens after this. This is the second body he'll have to dispose of. So, really interesting twists and turns for the character of Ed.
Derek, what's your first point?
That was also my first point. I'll jump on to another point instead. It's got to be Butch, doesn't it? This is a big episode for Butch Gilzine. He gets the opening scene with the Galvans where he goes to them and tells them of his experience with the Penguin, where he's lost his mind. What I do love about this scene is effectively he's been set up by the Penguin to go to Galvan and tell them that Penguin's turned on him and chopped off his arm. Effectively, he's not lying. He is saying to them, this guy chopped off my arm, okay? I wasn't expecting it. I held up my hand to protect myself and he took my arm away, you know? But what I love about the scene is, once again, Tabitha, the back and forth between her and him, where she's standing over looking at him going, he's pretty cute. He's like a lonely bear. You know?
Yeah.
I love her little interplay. And then says, wouldn't it be really fun if we put nice implements on his hand now? We can use it to put on some knives. We can use it to put on a really small chainsaw, like Ash versus Evil Dead, or we could put a mallet on it. And of course, the one they choose, which is my Batman 66 moment of the week, the one they choose is a tiny mallet, which is absolutely useless.
Absolutely.
It's not even a claw like you get with a pirate where he's able to pick things up with it. He just hits stuff with it.
Unless he's going to be doing some DIY. Yeah. Absolutely useless. I like the nod back as well with Barbara Keane there saying, you know, he was a nasty man to me. You know, he kept me in prisoner in a room. He kidnapped me. Really like that little nod back to season 1.
Absolutely. And that's the thing we spoke about again with Drew Powell. What we spoke about was the fact that without Butch Gilzine, we wouldn't have Barbara the way she is. He's the one that pushed her over the edge by kidnapping her effectively in her house. And treating her as badly as he did. He's kind of the instrumental part. And now he's on the other side of the table, where he has to go to them and plead for, I suppose, his life almost, and say to them, I can work for you. Do you trust me, even though I did those bad things to you? Really interesting. Really, really liked it though. And there's some interesting other stuff in here. Is his reprogramming broken by Tabitha? It seems like she was pretty convinced that she was going to be able to break the programming that Victor Zsasz did to him, to make him work for Penguin. He's gone back to Penguin. He's saying that that he knows where his mother is, but is it broken now? Are we going to see next week that he is actually working for Galavan now of his own free will, and he's out of that control that we've got from Victor Zsasz? I'm really intrigued by that.
Yeah, I mean, I also like the fact that, you know, I kind of right from the outset thought, you know, Galavan is not buying this, but he accepts him into the fold. And then you get that whole revelation of, you know, which is absolutely right. He was loyal for Fish and he was loyal, albeit programmed loyalty with Penguin. Mm-hmm. And I love how Galavan sort of pulls this out and says, you know, you are loyal to a fault. Unfortunately, you're still loyal to Penguin.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that then he sees this as an opportunity though to make him loyal to him, through maybe the tweaks and the whipping from Tabitha. You know, really, really good. I think as well, this is the first time we hear, Tabitha called the Tiger Lady, by Butch as well, and by anyone in Gotham. So maybe, you know, with the whip and all this, we are seriously beginning to see, you know, the Tigress come in here.
Like when the character was cast as Tabitha Galavan, we were informed that she was going to be Tigress in the show. But yeah, you're right. This is the first time that she's called even something close to that. So Tiger Lady, I guess, is the version of that. But yeah, really, really exciting and a good big episode for Butch. Definitely. I'm excited to see more. I think last week I said you don't chop off somebody's hand and then kill them in the next episode. I must say, when the whip was going round the neck of Butch Gilzine in Galavan's apartment, and he's being strangled and pushed to the floor, I actually thought that was the end for our fair dear Drew Powell. I thought that might be the end of his time on Gotham. But no, he's still there. He's still fighting his corner. So yeah, excited to see more.
Bruised and battered by the end, but nonetheless.
Absolutely. John, do you want to give us your next point?
I do. Jim and his promises. I love the fact that he was called out by Captain Barnes, even though Captain Barnes doesn't know maybe the extent of the promises and more promises that Jim has made over his time at the GCPD. And obviously we've mentioned this before, that it will, you know, come to be maybe a bit of a burden to bear for Jim with Penguin. But I love here that Captain Barnes calls him out on his promises, but this time it's to the promise he's made to Selina Kyle.
Yeah.
And it all links in kind of with the fact that, you know, Jim's had a note put on his file by Captain Barnes, because he was, you know, beating up a suspect.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a line and we can't cross that even though we're at war. We have to, tread carefully along that line. But then he calls Jim out to say that you can't make promises that you can't keep.
Yeah.
And this is the one that happens to Selina. And it has huge implications for his relationship with Selena. I mean, we see right at the end, Selena is like, I wish I had never spoken to you about it. I mean, almost, I wish I'd never met you kind of vibe to that exchange between Selena and Jim.
Absolutely. Never trust a cop. Like,
yeah, she feels completely betrayed. She thinks, obviously, that Bridget's dead. I'm sure that'll be one of our other points moving forward. But like, I loved the ramifications of Jim making a promise to someone that he can't keep, given that he has ultimately kept his promises so far with Penguin.
Yeah.
And I think this is a nice call out from Captain Barnes in this episode. I really liked it. I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. It was some little notes that I took about it as well, where essentially Barnes is like Jim was when he arrived in Gotham last season. He's a former military man. He does have that uphold the law but don't cross this line kind of attitude. And now Jim is kind of almost in Harvey's position, where he said, I came to this city like that, but Gotham's a city of grey areas, and I have to cross some grey lines and some blurry lines to get the job done now in this city, because I can't just go out and show my badge and get the information I want. That's not how Gotham works. But really interesting to see that the strike force, although they do report to Jim, are allowed to inform on their superior officers because of how corrupt the Gotham City Police Department is. I think that's quite interesting. I wonder how that will play out throughout the rest of the season with Gordon.
Yeah. But it's interesting that it's the reverse of Jim here, in the sense that Captain Barnes calls out Jim for stepping over the line that ultimately is threatening or coercing a suspect, like he did in the alleyway, and where he gets the note on the file. And as you say, you have that great exchange between, there's a line from Captain Barnes, but then Jim counters that with, respectfully, sir, this is Gotham.
Yeah.
But Captain Barnes still doesn't want anything of it. But then Captain Barnes is still on that line.
Yeah.
When Jim crosses it the other way, where he's trying to protect someone. He's trying to say that, yes, Bridget's killed these people, but there's a reason for it. And that's because she was bullied. She was prisoner by the Pike brothers, by her stepbrothers.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't care about the hows, the whys, and the boo-hoos. Like, he's like, it's the line for Captain Barnes. And Jim is going from either side. I mean, this is Humpty Dumpty falling on both sides of the wall that he's sat on.
I have to say, I'm kind of with Barnes on this. She's killed 3 people here. Although her brothers were treating her badly, she probably could have escaped from them again. She didn't have to set them both on fire and killed a police officer when she could have run away last time as well. But yes, there are really bad circumstances here, and I understand she's been badly treated, and that's Jim's point. But you murder 3 times, and that's probably a lot. That probably does turn you into a villain, regardless of where you came from, right? I
was going to say 3 strikes and you're out, but I mean, quite frankly, 1 strike and you're out when it comes to murders, really, in the scheme of things. Derek, what's your next point?
My next point is a big episode here for our Selena Kyle. Lots going on for Selena in this episode. I have to say, Cameron Bicondova is doing such a great job as this character of Selena Kyle. Some brilliant moments in here. I love the fact that it's Selena that comes up with the plan of how to get Bridget out of the city, that they're going to go and rob the money from the slave traders, I guess, or what you call human traffickers. She goes and comes up with that whole plan, and effectively tells Bridget that, no, you don't release the girls. You don't save anybody. You just go there and get the money, because that's what we're looking out for, is us. Some interesting ideas from the character of Selena. You're looking out for, number 1, take money from the bad guys. So she's not stealing from just rich people here. She's stealing from the bad guys, but she's still not going to release the girls. I love, again, the idea that she's dealing with another person that wants to become a vigilante. So despite all the murders that Bridget has done during this episode, she wants to go and save people. So she goes back to save those girls that were captured by the human traffickers. And effectively, the advice that Selena gives her is, don't be crazy or you'll get yourself killed. Similar advice that she gave to Bruce when he mentioned that he wanted to become a vigilante in the city, the last time they had their big discussion. So really, really interesting. But also they have a great Catwoman moment in this episode. I love,
big time.
Where she takes the gun off, Cale Pike, and he's pointing a shotgun at her. She grabs it by the barrel and then does a flip over his head that only a professional dancer could do. Absolutely fantastic and really good Catwoman moment.
Yeah, great moves by Selena there. And I love the fact that it was done kind of in silhouette underneath the bridge. Again, really well shot. Just that whole silhouette, the darkness and the dancing of the outlines of these characters in silhouette. And I think that couples nicely with the idea of the fire being used here. Like a real motif, I think, from the director and from the script writers. That's how I took it anyway, that there's light and darkness. It was really, really good.
Yeah.
I agree. I think this was to me, this is the best Selena Kyle episode so far. I actually really liked the relationship that she had with Bridget Pike. I love the fact that, again, it's that don't get too close to me, but she cares for her. It's like there's the advice there, but then there's the standoffishness that comes from Selena Kyle. I really, she's trying to sort of just coach Bridget through being this street urchin. Rule number one is look after number one. It's get this money, get out of town. People are looking after you. Don't do this. You don't need to do this. Just get out of town.
Yeah.
I love that. And then, she does care more than she lets on. And then you see that affecting her relationship now with Jim, which up till this point, she's been fine with him to an extent. It's kind of been like, she will deal with him, but I think we've moved into a point now where, she will no longer trust him. There's a little thing I noticed right at the end, before we see, the underground facility, but that ending has two elements to it. And the first one, just before the Indian Hill aspect, is you see Penguin rallying his troops ready to go and rescue his mom. You see Nigma on the floor cradling Christine Kringle. And then you see Selena on the roof, sort of contemplating everything that's gone on, the death of Bridget, the sort of seemingly betrayal of Jim Gordon, and his promise that he had made to her. And this, to me, these are the three original villains, of the piece, all maybe just moving down further into even more villainy. I think we'll see more Riddler-esque, shenanigans from Ed Nigma. Maybe for Selena Kyle, this is her breaking point with a fine line, and she really does commit herself to being a cat burglar and a thief without respect for the law.
Yeah.
And with Penguin, it's again, it's him notching up this, taking back Gotham, and moving from being the one who is, being bribed by Gallivant. So I really like that ending. I think it neatly encapsulated the three sort of central villains here really well.
Absolutely. I have to say that scene with Selena crying on the rooftop, I think it's a beautifully shot scene. And again, I mentioned the acting of Cameron Bicondova. This is probably her finest hour for me. I think she's really acted so well in this episode. And with so much to do, she's dealing with almost every character in the episode as she moves around, as Selena Kyle, the character, does. She generally will move around Gotham quite a lot. But yeah, I wonder what the impact of this is going to be. She already distanced herself from Bruce before. She's distanced herself from all the other characters. And now she's the only person that she's really had a connection with is Bridget. And now she's lost her. So is this, as you say, is she now resolving to keeping separate and keeping on her own? And once again, looking out from number one again. Yeah. Yeah. Really interesting though. That was my point on Selena. John, do you have another point for us?
Yeah. I mean, one of my points was Selena and Bridget. So I think I've covered it there. But, my other one, big one, Indian Hill. The division of Wayne Enterprises. And actually we see that Bridget is not as crispy toast as we thought she might have been. Which I'm kind of glad at, actually. I'm glad that Bridget and Firefly are not dead. And the fact that she's going to be experimented on, maybe even more so down in this facility underneath Indian Hill, that she's going to become a Firefly that were, I don't know, she's more integrated into, shooting fire out, or that she's protected against fire. I mean, I think you made an interesting point after we'd watched it about, that her suit is fused with her own body, melted to it. And so therefore now she's kind of fireproof.
Exactly.
And that would be a really cool thing to happen, that they begin testing on that aspect.
Absolutely. So essentially the doctors who were standing over her explained that that's the reason she's been brought to Indian Hill, which gives some explanation behind what Indian Hill could possibly be, a research facility or a testing facility for Wayne Enterprises. Really interesting concept.
This links back to the dark elements of Wayne Enterprises as well. It's a division of Wayne Enterprises. Mm-hmm. It links back to Falcone asking for Indian Hill toxic waste dump from Maroney in one of the big deals. What's so important that's at Indian Hill? This idea that you have this facility experimenting, testing for new weapons, new materials, on human beings. And I mean, as Bridget is wheeled down the corridor of Block 3 at Indian Hill facility, where I think she'll spend some more time of down there, we see her looking one side. I think we glimpse a fetus. I think we see a hand or two hands coming from a tank. We have no idea what's in there.
I have an idea.
We have a woman in PVC looking very Catwoman-like, but obviously we know that she isn't. Yeah. And then finally, a large man in underwear in a nice pair of trendy Y-fronts, chained up. I wonder whether that's Viper-esque, whether that's Bane-esque in some way.
Maybe.
Because he's quite heavy set. His face isn't covered, but he's strung up. So some really interesting nods along the corridor, but we don't see Jerome, for example.
Yes.
We don't see the electrocutioner, say, as another example. So it'll be interesting whether any of those villains from season 1 have made it down to the facility at Indian Hill. But it's really good to start to see this dark side of Wayne Enterprises. And what was the laboratory on the dock front that I think it was in the Viper episode at the end of that, where this sort of weapons experimentation and testing has been exposed.
That's right, the one that Molly Mathis from Wayne Enterprises was pointing at. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is really nice. Again, another nod back to season 1. And it's getting dark, and dark, it means juicy. It means like really beginning to get sort of interesting, and blurred and ambiguous for Bruce. I love the fact as well that, we have the little chat between Bruce and Galavan talking about Bunder's law and Galavan's knowledge that there were bad things or corrupt things, or things that really, Wayne Enterprises shouldn't be doing. How much does Galavan know of Indian Hill? Is he seeking to release these terrors from underneath the ground? Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. I was wondering if those two arms that were coming out of that box were possibly Fish Mooney, potentially. They look like female arms to me. We know that Fish Mooney is returning, so I wonder if she was captured and put into Indian Hill. But the one thing that does make me question that is, well, what was her superpower that would be under research at the facility? She didn't seem to have any particular powers in season 1, so I'm wondering if there's anything that, any reason why she would have been captured and put into Indian Hill. The one other character that I think it's possible to have been put in here is potentially the young Scarecrow from season 1.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like he was affected by his father's serum, which made him crazy, and he could see the Scarecrows coming towards him in episode 15 of season 1, wasn't it? So it'll be interesting to see if potentially that's where he's been transferred to. That'd be quite a nice little touch and tie back to season 1 of Gotham, wouldn't it?
Definitely. I'd love to see Jonathan Crane come back. I loved those 2 episodes where Charlie Dehan was playing Jonathan Crane. Really good. It would be great to see him back, a worthy villain, worthy of Rising in season 2, definitely.
Absolutely.
And probably the Rising maybe links to this underground facility, the zombiness of it all. I'm kind of loving as well.
Absolutely. No, really intriguing close out to this episode. And I thought, as I mentioned earlier on, I thought the strangulation of Christine Kringle would be the end of the episode. I thought that's where the credits are going to roll, with Ed holding her in his arms and screaming out to the night. But no, we get a really intriguing, and it's episode 6 of season 2 now. We're not even halfway through the season, and we've got this big reveal of the Wayne Industries research facility under the ground of Indian Hill. Really exciting and really interesting to point. Really,
yeah, cool, very cool. Derek, what's your final point?
I think we have to talk about Bridget, really, don't we? There's quite a significant character in these 2 episodes. I love that we got 2 complete episodes with this character. I love that we saw the turn for her in the last episode I mentioned. I kind of called her a Disney princess almost, where she's sweeping the floor of her ugly stepbrother's house kind of thing, In this episode, we see the complete turn for the character. She says that she's taken on board Selena's advice to her, that she's now free, by killing her 2 brothers and burning the 2 of them to death. It's a really good character turn. I like the fact that she wants to be a vigilante, that she feels like she's going to be able to save people with the powers that she's gotten for herself. Really well played part. And again, as you say, I like the fact that we're going to see her hopefully again in future. We'll see Bridget Pike come back. A really good, well thought out character and a really good arc for this villain and this creation of a new version of the villain, actually from the comic books. I thought that was really good, and I loved seeing this character throughout these 2 episodes.
Yeah, I liked her arc actually, of being this sort of timid, teenager, young lady, essentially being bullied, and taking it upon herself to do things that she feels right. Again, it's slightly, going down a vigilante, route. She's going to get revenge on the people that have bullied her in Joe and Kel Pike. And, Joe is an evil, manipulative bully that she extracts revenge on. He kind of turns the fact that him and his brother zoomed off on her in the last episode to say that she left them and that she's turned her back on them by going and getting the money. And you're just kind of like, of the 2 of them, I think it was good that he was still alive and that Bullock managed to get off a couple of kicks into the side that finally finished him off. Maybe officially not killed by Bridget. That was, I suppose sweet justice for Bridget to do that, and then to get the traffickers and then really, that wider vendetta and vengeance that she has to go after all the bullies that she sees as Firefly. I thought that was really good development. I liked it. And as I said before, I liked her relationship with Selena. I thought it was quite touching in places. Selena saying a girl in the neighborhood that needs help. This real sort of camaraderie and friendship and companionship between the 2, which I think really lent to Selena's story and lent to Bridget's story to make them really sort of stand out. It was really good. Yeah,
and I do like Selena's reaction to Bridget when she says, I'm going to go out and take out the bullies and the people that hurt me. And she goes, who's left? You've killed your brothers. They were the people that hurt you. They were the people that bullied you. Who else is left to take on? If you do something stupid, you will get yourself killed. I really like that from Selena. And the relationship between the 2 of them was really, really good. John, do you have a final point for us?
I do. It's Bruce and Alfred. And Alfred, again, hitting another minor in the course of his duties. This time, though, with boxing gloves on as he's training Bruce Wayne. As always, I love it when Bruce and Alfred are on the screen together. I think David Mazouz and Sean Pertwee work so well together. And I love the boxing scene down in Thomas Wayne's Batcave or whatever we can call it now. I love that, keeping him on his toes. Don't get distracted. You're going to have to fight dirty. And Bruce sinks his teeth into Alfred's arm, and then Alfred talks about Silver St. Cloud, and then hits him again and knocks him to the ground, and you just see the knowing smiles and the nods between Bruce and Alfred, and I just really sort of thought that was really nice. Again, linking back to training up Bruce to be the person that we know he's going to be.
Yeah.
It was really, really good. I must say, I enjoyed it. And of course, it links then to that sort of dinner with the Galavans, with Tabitha, Theo, and Silver St. Cloud, where you really see the manipulation of Theo Galavan trying to, hark back to family meals, and, Bruce kind of recognizing that he's not had that for a while.
Yeah.
It was creepy of Theo to do that, but I can see it's that psychological slant to his plans, which I always find fascinating. I'm loving that side of Theo Galavan, that he is so manipulative.
Absolutely. I thought it was a bit harsh when he raised a glass to family in front of Bruce. I thought it was a bit harsh.
It was a bit.
Like, to family, which you don't have, Bruce.
Yeah.
Would you like us to be your family? Yeah, I thought that was a bit harsh.
But again, bringing him to the bosom of the Galavans, but little does he know that it will end potentially with a big whopping knife in the back.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It does look like Galavan is getting himself set up for his place on the board of Wayne Enterprises, or at least controlling the board of Wayne Enterprises, as he seems to control quite a lot in the city already. I'm presuming he's pretty much dead set for mayor after that opening scene where he has the senator hanging himself on a stack of books just to get him to back Galavan's play for mayor. I thought that was a really cruel scene, but yeah, throughout this, he does seem to be really manipulating the city of Gotham quite well.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, really good scene as well with David Mazouz and Sean Pertwee. Really enjoyed it. I loved as you say, the look on David Mazouz's face when he gets that punch in the face from Alfred. There's no anger in him, that he's just been taken for a fool by being told that, oh, you're going on a date with Silver St. Cloud, and then getting punched. It's that look of, oh, you got me again. He always gets me, but I'll get him one day.
Yeah, exactly. Really good. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, enjoyable. I think that's it for our top 5 points for this episode. I just have one quick note, which was my Bullockism of the week.
Yeah.
This was the wonderful Harvey Bullock, and a return from Ivy Pepper. Claire Foley, who played Ivy Pepper in season 1, returns and has a wonderful little interrogation with Harvey Bullock where he says to her, ginger to ginger, I know you know where Selena Kyle is. Love that little moment from him. He also has that great little line later on when he sees the pikes on fire and says, I hate how it smells so good, or it smells like barbecue.
Yeah, like good barbecue,
Yeah, but one little touch or note from that, he effectively releases Ivy Pepper back into the city. So Harvey Bullock has now released the young Ivy Pepper back into the city of Gotham. She was in care, in a care home, and now he's released her back into the city. So I wonder if that's going to play out in a future episode.
Yeah, again, over food. He goes off to get his chocolate bar. Yeah. And then, yeah, the barbecue line is priceless.
Absolutely.
Like, really good. And then him kicking Joe Pike whilst he's down and toasted again. It's classic Bullock from Gotham. Like, really good.
And the sigh and reaction from Jim of, yeah, we could probably have interrogated him, but now he's dead, Harvey. It's oh God, why is my partner so bad at this? Really good moment. John, do you have any notes about this episode?
Only just, I loved it when Bridget burnt her 2 brothers. I loved the reflection in the kind of insect bug eyes, of her suit.
Yeah.
As they're both burning. And I love it later on that she kind of makes the nod that, Joe burned the brightest. A really good little moment, I think, and a great image to take away from this episode of the Firefly.
Absolutely. I have to say the fire in this episode was fantastically done. I know Bridget is alive at the end of the episode, but the scene when she's standing in front of all the cops and sets fire to the police car, and then the fire shoots back onto her as she goes up in flames effectively. I thought that was really, really well shot and looked really dangerous. It looked completely realistic. That looked like fire on the set.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly wasn't CGI by the looks of it anyway.
May have had some, but it was a definite sort of, it looked like a physical effect.
Yeah. So really good and really dangerous stunt work, I think, for that. It looked fantastic, I have to say. So all props to TJ Scott for that one. It was a really well put together scene. I'm sure all the stuntmen had a long day working on that, making it look good. So, John, overall, I think that's the end of our notes and points on the episode. Overall, what's your feeling on the episode itself?
I think it was a really good episode. I'd definitely give it 4 batarangs out of 5. For me, it just had an awful lot going into it, but it all meshed in really nicely.
Yeah.
All the key characters. And for me, without a shadow of a doubt, it was the Selena Kyle storyline. I think this is her now breaking from trusting the law and maybe really coming into her own as a cat burglar. I really liked. I think there's some really good, through stories, as I said, with Enigma, but also with Selena, as I've said, and also Bridget, and leading to then, Indian Hill. Really good reveal at the end.
Yeah.
Really plays back to, the Viper episode, really links into the dark forces at work in Wayne Enterprises, and all linked up nicely with the ongoing Theo Galavan plot, and now with Butch and Penguin being embroiled in it as well. And I thought it was a nice little touch with Captain Barnes and his promises. To me, that was like all of the episode. Really done really well. So this was a great episode.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always delighted when we get one of these episodes where it's a 2-part story and you get to experience the character a bit more than you used to in those one and done episodes we had in season 1. So I think season 2 is really doing this right, really getting to explore the characters and have things that are carrying for every character from episode to episode. I think that works really well. I'm really excited to see more of the show. So with that, I think it's time for some feedback, John.
Yeah.
So if you want to send us your feedback on the episodes of Gotham as they go on, all you need to do is just pop us an email to feedback@Gotham TV Podcast, or you can come and join our new Facebook group. We've just set it up last week so that we can talk about episodes of Gotham in the UK pace, I suppose, because there's a lot of places that are spoiling the US episodes. So I want to make sure that we're able to discuss the episodes without getting spoiled for future stuff. So just come find us on Facebook at Gotham TV Podcast. We have the group and the page on there. So just come find us there and we'll accept you to the group.
And of course, on Twitter, we are at Gotham TV Podcast. So you can always leave a tweet with us on our Twitter handle as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of Twitter, our first piece of feedback comes from Paul Edwards, who sent us a direct message on Twitter. He says, question for the podcast. Do you think Theo is a crucial character for the development of Penguin's nature in the Batman era, the tactics he uses against others, etc.? And do you think the new GCPD task force will be corrupted? So 2 questions there from Paul. John, what do you think? Do you think it's Theo Galavan who's going to help develop Penguin's nature in the comic books?
I think so. I think Theo develops Penguin further. I think Penguin was always a good manipulator, but he has been out manipulated here by Theo. Even if Penguin gets his revenge on him, which I feel is probably highly likely.
He did take his mother after all.
Yeah, absolutely. But Penguin has gone from being king of Gotham to working for someone else and taking all the heat for it as well. Pardon the pun. So I think Penguin will be affected by this kind of setback, as he would see it. But he will learn from it because he's clever. I mean, you saw him still trying to find that one weakness from the last episode where we got the story behind the Galavans, and we'll see how Penguin puts that to use. So I think they're both serious manipulators, and I think they will sort of learn from one another. But in particular, the fact that Penguin has been topped here in this sense, he will probably take that and learn from it, because that's what he does. Definitely.
Yeah, totally agree. I think Penguin has been more of the kind of passive almost manipulator, where he says a casual word in the right person's ear and it gets passed around, and it all gets hidden behind kind of these Chinese whispers of where this manipulation came from. That's kind of the way he went through working with the mafia in season 1 of Gotham. This time you've got someone like Galavan who effectively puts somebody up in a noose, hanging and says, are you going to get my support or are you going to die? Basically, that's his kind of version of a character. I think Penguin's going to start using some of those tactics and techniques, as he goes back in to control Gotham.
Yeah. And then I think in relation to the new GCPD task force, will it be corrupted? I think we talked about this, last week. Definitely it would be absolutely great to see that. And in particular, I just thought Captain Barnes played it so down the line in his response to the behavior of Jim that it would be great to see that corruption eke into the Alpha Squad.
Yeah, it's interesting. Interesting. I'm not seeing that they will be corrupt yet, but so it'll be a bit of a rug pull for me if they are, especially given that these guys are all chosen from the academy by Jim and Barnes, so it's going to be quite interesting if Barnes is playing the long game and is in the pocket of Galavan. That'll be quite interesting. My feeling is that Jim's actually becoming more in the pocket of Galavan, because he's already doing things outside of the law, and he's now given Galavan his support in the election to mayor. So I think without knowing it, Jim is probably the more likely one to be corrupt. He doesn't know he's corrupt, but he's doing things on behalf of Galavan. So I'm kind of intrigued by that.
Yeah, I mean, that's unknowing, but I wonder if, the Alpha Squad and Captain Barnes will go from being straight down the line to taking Jim's advice of you have to work in the grey areas in Gotham. Like he says in this episode, respectfully, sir, this is Gotham. And maybe they will start to move into those grey areas in order to get, results in the GCPD, and maybe that then will develop to where they step beyond it, which I think Jim has done once, but I wonder if they will go then further. And will it all become too much? Will they lose too many of their fellow officers and suddenly go, is this worth it?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I think that would be a really telling indictment of Gotham, that no matter what the good intentions is, that it brings you down to this base level where you have to operate like the criminals in order to capture them.
Yeah.
It'd be really interesting to see that, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think they're definitely going to be a good foil for Jim as he tries to get what he believes is his job done by crossing those lines back and forth. I think they're definitely going to be a good group against him. Whether corrupt or not, I don't know, but I'm really intrigued by how they're going. So thanks for that bit of feedback, Paul.
Yeah, thanks so much, Paul.
Our second piece of feedback comes from Daniel Butcher from the Welcome to Level 7 podcast. As we mentioned last week, Daniel sent us feedback on every episode pretty much up to episode 11, and we weren't allowed to open it until this year when we started to watch episodes. So Daniel starts out with Happy 2016.
Thank you, Daniel. Happy 2016. Happy New Year to everyone.
Gosh, it's February.
A little belated.
Can't do that. He starts out with, oh man, I really do love how they MCU'd or Gothamed Firefly. I really feel for her and I really forgive her as a murdering murderer who murders. And I'm so thrilled we will get to see her again, though I did originally think it might be someone else on that gurney. And I'm a hot mess and tense as I consider what Wayne Enterprises and who is there with her. I'm just saying that guy looked pretty cold. Interesting. Yeah, I wonder if that was Mr. Freeze. Was that our first introduction to Mr. Freeze in Indian Hill?
Maybe, but he looked too built.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe Victor Freeze is working in Indian Hill, and so he's experimenting on it. Maybe it's that side of it. Yeah, that'll be interesting now. Is it Mr. Freeze, or is it Mr. Freeze working in Indian Hill, testing his freezing and preservation techniques to preserve his wife?
Yeah.
At Indian Hill. Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to your point there, you thought there was somebody else on the gurney. I'm sure that crossed my mind as well, that this could possibly be Jerome that was being brought in on the gurney, because I didn't think they were going to cut off Jerome for good. But that's definitely Bridget Pike being brought in. You could tell by the eye acting that she's doing that it's definitely Bridget. She looks terrified as she's being wheeled in for her possible experimentation. So Daniel goes on to say, wow, if you're on payroll for Gotham, don't buy a new house because you never know when you might go. Ed gets everything he wants and then loses it in a very TV choke because seriously, he was not putting enough pressure on her to kill her that quickly. It seems a little off in execution, but wow. that will clearly take him to somewhere even crazier.
Absolutely.
I think he really might regret double dating with a cop. Someone is going to notice.
Yeah, big time.
Definitely.
Big time. Yeah.
And finally, Daniel says, Butch is stealing the show for me. I'm pretty sure his conditioning has been broken, though. Couldn't agree more. Our wonderful intro is provided by Drew Powell, who plays Butch. He's one of our favorite characters. We specifically asked him to come on for our 50th episode to do an interview with him because we loved him in season 1.
Absolutely. And we're loving him in season 2.
So excited about what he's been given in season 2, definitely.
And I think now that it's been broken, and we've discussed this previously, that Fish is back, at some point. We did mention that as a big piece of news in previous episode that, hopefully we get the Butch and Fish team up again, and his loyalty, as Galavan says, it is returned to its rightful place with Fish.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it'd be really interesting. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for that, Daniel, as always.
Thank you, Daniel.
We will have some more feedback from Daniel next week. As I said, if you want to send in your feedback to us, in addition to the feedback that we have, just pop it into feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. And on to our final piece of feedback, which comes from Natalie. She sent in quite a lot of feedback. We'll just take out a little element of it. A bit about Indian Hill, because I think it's the big talking point from this episode. Says, one of the reveals I found most interesting was the Indian Hill Lab. First, as a division of Wayne Enterprises, it becomes something Bruce can fight to have shut down once it is discovered. More importantly, it becomes a plausible way to open up the more fantastical end of the Rogues Gallery and Batman's heroic allies, for that matter. Anyone for Plastic Man? She says. For example, Clayface is rumoured to show up in some form. Season 1 of Gotham would have had a master of disguise with that nickname. Indian Hill could conceivably produce the classic shape-shifting villain, and it could also produce a Bane.
I thought the guy in the Y-fronts was pretty built, and could and could have been Bane,
possibly,
or another Viper experiment. So not necessarily Bane, but again, getting closer to that.
Yeah. And she goes on to say, and although I still say Jerome Velasquez is dead, he could be resurrected in this lab with a somewhat greater but still very low chance that one of the doctors in the lab tries to recreate that insanity in someone else.
Yeah, and she also says the freshly cast Victor Fries, that he could be one of the doctors associated with the lab. Absolutely. That was kind of one of the things I was thinking of as well. I think one other point that Natalie mentions is that the Galavan arc seems to be moving quite fast, and she's starting to wonder if it will finish in the first half of season 1. It's interesting because you're right, and there was, he is moving this fast, and I think we saw clips for the next episode, which seems to be heavily influenced by the Galavan arc. Who knows? I'm hoping they stay around. I want to see these brothers arrive on the shores of Gotham and start to extract revenge from family Wayne.
Yes, the Order of Saint Dumas. Yes, really interesting. Yeah, we found out this week that we will actually be getting Azrael in the show. The lead showrunner, I think it was John Stevens, mentioned it, that apparently we will be getting Azrael in the show. So I wonder if my theory from last episode that Galavan is Azrael in some form and will potentially put on a costume and become Azrael, I wonder if that theory will pay off.
Let's hope. Yeah, Natalie also makes the point that, Ed is now becoming a somewhat inadvertent criminal, that he's stuck in a hole with his dual personalities, but he's not yet gone over the edge. But whether, really now we see him falling over the edge now that he has murdered, the love of his life, Christine Kringle. It could be a direct cause, or maybe it might not be that instant catalyst. We still need to see what happens. But it'll be interesting to see how he covers up the death, she says, and absolutely can't wait to see that. I think it's a tipping point for Ed Nigma. It has to be. I think we have to see a bit more riddles entering in from Ed Nigma. Yeah,
absolutely. And Natalie's final point is, she says, I wonder if Butch will last long enough to get something more functional for that left-hand stump? And how badly will Penguin retaliate if Butch has indeed been turned? Oh, absolutely. Really looking forward to the rest of this season.
He needs a tin opener, I think, or a corkscrew.
I did love the idea of a tiny chainsaw. So he's like Ash from Ash vs. Evil Dead, taking out the zombies coming from Indian Hill with his chainsaw and boomstick, maybe.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Be groovy.
Groovy indeed. I think that's all for the feedback for this episode of the podcast.
Yep.
And I think that wraps up our thoughts and discussion on By Fire, this episode 6 of Gotham. Again, any feedback, please send it in at feedback@Gotham TV Podcast. And of course, as always, we're here to remind you to subscribe and listen to us at gothamtvpodcast.com/iTunes, or search Gotham TV Podcast in any other good podcast catcher, such as Podcast Addict, Beyond Pod, Player FM, or indeed Stitcher, if you so will. You can also interact with us on our Facebook site and page. Just search again Gotham TV Podcast, and of course our Twitter handle at Gotham TV Podcast. You're more than welcome to send in thoughts, comments, discussions on the show, on the podcast. We'll be delighted to hear from you.
Yep, thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week with episode 7 of season 2 of Gotham, Mommy's Little Monster. Interesting. I think
Absolutely.
This is going to be a very penguin-centric episode, possibly.
Can't wait.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
Looking forward to it. I'm off to get some barbecue.
Yeah. Toasted ribs sound fairly scrumptious. And so thank you so much for listening. Bye.
Thanks for being a Butch supporter. Butch loves you, baby.
And our final piece of feedback.
This has been a Flickering Myth Podcast Network production. For more information, head over to flickeringmyth.com for more shows like it. Find this show in iTunes by searching for the podcast name, and head over to youtube.com/flickeringmyth to subscribe to the Flickering Myth movie show. We'll see you on the next podcast. Take care. Bye-bye.